It began 4 weeks ago, when I first saw the shadowy entity. That night it came to me, while I was in a dark place, depressed, and ready to give up everything I had. While I lay awake in my little apartment, conquering the living was purposeless. That unnatural thing merely answered my desperate prayer. When the entity yanked me off the bed, I saw my body. I realized that my soul was detached and in the grip of some vengeful force. When I knew that death wasn't just signing off, I changed my mind. I fought to stay, and everything went south from that moment. I was haunted by something. I wasn't sure what. At first, I thought it was just that dark entity, the apparition, or maybe it's just the result of my sleeplessness. It could be sleep paralysis. It could be a trick of my mind. But then, people started seeing things that weren't there around me, and I saw my own hands turning black. My mom told me that when I was a kid, she offered me to a monk in a pledging of a child ritual. In that promise, I wasn't my mom's kid anymore. I belonged to that monk, someone I didn't remember or knew. Now this progressing supernatural incidents alluded to this superstitious arrangement, to that monk and the temple in my mom's hometown in Thailand. Perhaps this was the root of the twisted phenomenon. We arrived in Thailand earlier than our plan, so Helen couldn't join Mom, Steve, and me. We stayed in my grandparents' house, but my grandma passed away years ago, so the house was my aunt's now. Before arrival, from talking to my aunt, we already knew that a monk who performed the ritual more than 20 years ago was asked to leave the temple in accusations of thieving, but we still wanted more information about him. Mom, Steve, and I visited the temple, but unfortunately the temple didn't have the record at all, and the abbot of that period passed away years ago too. We didn't know what to do, and I was afraid to go to bed at night. I saw my hands turning black more often now. People told me that my hands were fine, but I clearly saw that they were disgusting and got so dark and rotten that I wanted to cut them off. Some of the worst nights were when the shadowy figure hovered over my bed as if it were waiting for me to surrender my soul. I had turned into an emotional wreck, easy to pick up the fight, unable to control my mood swings. My mom said that this was exactly how I was when I was young and before the ritual. I didn't know what happened to me, but I was losing my mind and scared all the time. The third night in my aunt's house, while I anticipated falling asleep, a Buddhist chant rang through the house. I chattered, but in Thailand, the prayers purred in the winds. It's quite common that you would hear the prayers anywhere, especially in a village like this, in the housewarming party, in the funeral, at a wedding, and any occasion. But when I checked my phone, my stomach turned. It was at 2 a.m. Nobody would pray at this hour. Right then, I heard a knock on the door. I started and jumped out of bed. Again another knock. A couple of knocks. My heart quickened. "Who's there?" I asked. But there was no answer. No knock after that. But I clearly sensed that someone was right there behind the door. So I lay against the floor and peeked through the gap below the door, nearly melting on my yellow hands and knees. I saw 2 dirty feet, and their wrinkled skins were covered with mud. I held my breath as the feet shuffled to the side. The dark yellow fabric grazed across the floor. I jerked in my throat and jumped back in bed. I covered my mouth and froze. My blood shot through my veins, and my heart tired of accelerating. Screaming for help was useless. As I tried many times, nobody could help me but my own exhaustion. The next morning, I cried desperately. I needed a solution. I needed peace and protection, but I was living on the edge of delusion. I was afraid that I would go crazy. My aunt suggested my family do merit in temples, donate money, and accumulate good deeds. Previously, before this thing happened, I would have laughed at the advice, or I could have been upset with my mom for willing to waste money doing these things. Don't get me wrong, donating and praying are great, but I wondered if everything was genuine. I often accused my mom of being brainwashed by her own belief. But now I understood why people trust something they couldn't see or prove. Faith anchored your soul. My mom, Steve, and I decided to go on a little temple road trip. We mapped out 9 destinations, the last one being a place where we would stay for a couple of days to meditate. This trip was supposed to be some kind of spiritual cleansing. My mom forced my sister and me through all this before, so I was familiar with the process. The whole week, we traveled to different provinces, prayed in many temples, consulted many monks, and donated the money generously. In each temple, I would drip the water on the ground and will my merit to the entities who followed me. I felt better, to be honest, mostly right after finishing off the offering of my good deeds away. But at night, I was still terrified that a monk and a dark entity would show up. And while my relationship with mom healed, my best friend Jen, who was always there for me, was not happy about my journey. She said my mom and her superstitions had finally got to me, and I was hallucinated and perhaps sick because of the manipulation. We had a heated argument one night when she pointed out that my mom's beliefs were probably what turned me into where I was today. She said that I was exploited and she feared for my safety. She reminded me how she and I used to talk about my mom's senseless dedication. She also jogged my memory, which my mom refused to pay for the arts camp I really wanted to go because my mom would rather donate the money to temple instead. Indeed, my mom had her unreasonable side, but right now she was on my side. Jen wouldn't understand it, but supernatural was real. Jen hung up the phone and we didn't talk for days. The last destination wasn't a temple, but it was like a meditation facility where people went to be cut off from the outside world, from all the distractions in life, to meditate, volunteer, and pray. Jen said it sounded like a cult. The facility was remote, and once we got to town, we took a shared pickup truck taxi, which would take us further to the even more secluded place. The truck had 2 benches on each side. It had a roof, but the sides were completely opened and enclosed by the backrest and metal bars. When we got in, there weren't anyone there, so we sat on one side. It was more comfortable when we sat together. Strangely, the other passengers who got in also sat on our side, leaving the other bench completely empty. The truck moved from one stop to another, and people got in and out of it. But on this whole ride, nobody had ever sat on the other bench. There was a point where there were many passengers, but none of them sat there. People were willing to stand than sitting on that bench. And it made me think that maybe there was something wrong with that bench that my mom, Steve, and I couldn't understand. One time, we heard the passengers whisper something like, "Why isn't he in the front?" Or, "He should have been in the front." We didn't understand the remarks. At first, we thought that the other passengers were talking about us, but it didn't make any sense because the 3 of us couldn't fit in the single passenger seat next to the driver. The truck ride was awkward, but about 40 minutes later, we got out at the gate of the meditation facility. The other passengers then spread on both benches equally. I seriously thought that it was a prank because after we got out, other passengers seemed eased right away. My mom walked to the passenger sides and handed the drivers the money. She paid and got the change, and when she took some steps back, the driver said, "Please keep it, my merit." He bowed his head. From the gesture, he wasn't talking to my mom, Steve, or me. It was as if he was talking to someone who we couldn't see. The chill crawled all over my skin as it hit me how other passengers behaved. The truck cruised away while I wondered if everyone other than the 3 of us saw someone there, and this someone had to get out as we did. Also, this someone has to be standing with us right now. In Thailand, there was a type of people who wouldn't share the seats with the public. Monks. Monks were usually given the privilege to sit in the front row of public transportation, and people had a different way to talk to them. My mom clutched my hand and shook her head. as she knew what I may have been thinking. The meditation facility is vast and peaceful. In the middle is a large ground for activities. In the west was a male dormitory, and the east was a female one. Steve stayed in the west dorm, while Mom and I shared a room in a female dorm. As we walked to the administration's office, I noticed in various parts of the property people reading, cleaning, and meditating. One particular group of people caught my attention though. There was a girl about my age in the care of 2 staff. She looked withered, and in her eyes were nothing. Her lips crinkled as she was speaking to herself, and I hoped that I wouldn't get to that point. We went inside the office for registration and met the director of the facility. She was about 50, her hair neatly tied into a bun, and she wore all white. She told us about the rules and the program when we completed the checked-in process. She said, "Usually I won't say this. I know this is sensitive, but I want you to know that I'm not trying to take advantage of you. I never say this to people here, but I have another part of life outside the facility." Slowly, she revealed to us that she was a medium. She looked at my register and said that she had never sensed something so intense before. "You see ghosts?" the woman said. "No," I said immediately. Despite having experienced the horrifying paranormal episodes every other day, I don't believe in the supernatural. I lied to myself. "I disagree," the woman said. "Whatever you have seen throughout your life are spirits." Mom and Steve were shocked to hear this. I admitted for the first time to my family, to other people, to myself, that I may have been seeing something throughout my life. But it was never solid, never plausible, never real. Sometimes I saw old people, shadows, strangers who weren't there. The visions were brief and foggy, that I could easily shrug off as the illusions of lights. I always had justifications and explanations for the glitches of my perception. There couldn't be ghosts because ghosts weren't real, and it couldn't be paranormal because superstitions were stupid. My mom had to be wrong. I spent all my life trying not to turn to my mom. I didn't want to believe in this thing, but it happened. It could be real. The thing I saw could have been spirits. I didn't want to accept it, but the truth was right there for me to swallow. "But the strangest thing here," the woman added, "was that you have 2 fates." The woman said people usually had one and only fate designed for them long before they were born. But I had 2, which weren't for me to choose but parallel through my life. But how could one person have 2 fates, 2 destinies, 2 futures? She could only see, but didn't understand it. She says because of this uniqueness, I was prone to see the unseen, and there would be times when people would come into my life and tell me to explore the spirit world. "Don't," she said. "It would be the most dangerous for you." Although she herself was a medium, she wouldn't advise someone like me to do it. The best things for me to do were merit and pray. The strange conversation with the woman unnerved me. My brother was a little skeptical. My mom wholeheartedly believed her, and I was scared of every word she said about me. I was emotionally drained, to be honest, and I couldn't think straight. My mom and I got into our room, which was simple and neat, and we went on with the first things in the program, which was reading, and then we meditated. We had dinner, and then another reading session and meditation. The next morning we woke up for the circumambulation, which was a type of walking meditation. Throughout the day, we read religious books and meditated. I had to say that the program had actually helped me. I was relaxed and at peace, and that made me think of extending my stay because I felt safe here. On the second night, the last night at the facility, when my mom was on the phone with my aunt, I was lying in bed reading. The temperatures in the room gradually dropped, so I left the book and reached for the air conditioner remote control. But then I saw a woman standing in the room, and my heart dropped. In that split second, so many possibilities ran through my mind. She was definitely real, because I could see her very clearly. Her hair was loosely braided, and her face wasn't normal. There was something on it, blood or flesh, I wasn't sure, but it wasn't pretty. And she gave me the creepiest smile I had ever seen. I was stunned. I turned my head to my mom, who was still on the phone and didn't seem to see that woman, and a thought hit me. Could these strangers be the mad girl I had seen earlier, and how could she get inside my room? I couldn't process the situation. I didn't know what was real or ghost anymore. I sweated, and my heart raced out of control. I asked my mom if she could see that woman who continued giving me her best smile. My mom said there was nobody else in the room other than us, but the woman began to drift to me. She sat on the bed and eased down next to me. My body shook violently, and the raw screams tore out of my lungs. I screamed so loud I could rip my vocal cord. I held my limbs so fiercely, I feared they broke from my body. My mom tried to stop me. The staff and other people in the dorm wanted to calm me down, but I had exploded, fear erupting and proliferating through my skin. My mouth, my eyes, my ears were numb by terror. I couldn't remember anything much after that. The next thing I could comprehend was Jen beside me and said, "I'm here to help you." After a while, I realized that I was in a hospital and I had been put there for days. The doctor said I had some kind of panic attack, but I didn't remember the first few days in the hospital at all. I had lost tons of weight. I couldn't speak without being breathless after a sentence. My body started to give up, while my spirit had already been broken. Jen took care of me. Actually, she took control of the situation. She had a massive fight with my mom and said that I was in this shape because of my mom. Jen says the right thing to do was to find me a qualified and scientific help. Jen has such a strong personality, and before I knew it, I agreed to go back to the States with her. I was discharged from the hospital and ready to go home, not realizing that the next chapters of my life was going to spiral down south even further than this. Honestly, my stomach gaps just thinking about it, but I will have to tell you next time. Goodbye for now, Angie.